Let's talk about a moment in history. May 1940, a time when the fate of the entire Western world was decided, not on some huge battlefield, but in a tense, probably smoke-filled room in London. As Nazi Germany was just rolling across Europe, a secret debate was raging inside Britain's war cabinet. And this wasn't just any debate. It could have ended the war before it really began and honestly decided the future for all of us. So, put yourself in their shoes. This was the brutal existential question facing Winston Churchill's brand new government. France was collapsing. The British army was completely cornered at Dunkirk. The odds looked, well, impossible. The easy way out was to talk, to negotiate. The hard path was to fight. And you might think everyone was on the same page, right? Fight to the last man. But nope, not even close. Behind closed doors, a political battle was unfolding that was so high stakes, it would literally determine the course of history. Okay, so this really captures the clash at the heart of the crisis. On one side, you have Lord Halifax, the Foreign Secretary. He's making what sounds like a really pragmatic argument. Hey, let's use Mussolini as a go-between and just see what kind of deal we can get. It's the classic diplomat's move, trying to save what he can from a bad situation. But on the other side, Churchill is standing firm. He's arguing this isn't some traditional war. Any negotiation from a position of weakness is just a surrender, with extra steps, one that would turn Britain into a puppet state for the Nazis. And this wasn't a quick chat. For 3 critical days, the argument just raged. By the second day, May 27th, Halifax's side was actually gaining ground. Churchill, in a moment of pure political genius, saw he was about to be overruled. So what does he do? On May 28th, he takes the whole debate outside that small room and goes to the full 25-member outer cabinet. He laid out the grim reality, but argued with so much passion that he won them over completely. He got his mandate to fight on. And this is where that famous line really comes from. It wasn't just some nice-sounding rhetoric for the public. It was the harsh reality he had just sold to his own government. The decision was made. Britain would not ask for a deal. It would fight. But how? Okay, so you've chosen to be defiant. How on earth can a relatively small, under-equipped island possibly survive the full might of the Nazi war machine? Well, the answer wasn't in brute force. It was in a revolutionary new system. You see, Britain's secret weapon wasn't some kind of superplane. It was a system, an integrated air defense network. It was spearheaded by this brand new tech called radar, and what it meant was that the RAF didn't have to fly these constant, exhausting patrols just hoping to find the enemy. Nope. They knew where the Germans were coming from, and they could send their Spitfires and Hurricanes to meet them with lethal efficiency. It was a total game changer, a real strategic masterstroke. And it wasn't just about the RAF, you know? Britain's defense was like an onion. It had layers. The Royal Navy basically owned the English Channel, which made any sea invasion a nightmare for Germany. You had the codebreakers at Bletchley Park giving crucial intelligence. And then on the ground, you had coastal defenses and even a civilian militia, the Home Guard. The whole thing created this defiant Fortress Britain mentality. This entire strategy really came to a head on September 15th. The Luftwaffe threw everything they had at London, and they suffered absolutely devastating losses. So much so that Hitler was forced to postpone his invasion plan, Operation Sea Lion, basically forever. The RAF had won the Battle of Britain, and the nation was safe from immediate invasion. But winning in the air didn't mean the danger was over, not by a long shot. The war now came directly to the cities, to the civilians, to the home front. The cost was just staggering. In about a year, the Blitz, this sustained bombing campaign on Britain's cities, killed over 40,000 civilians. This wasn't a war fought by soldiers anymore. It was being fought by literally everyone. And yet, out of all this horror, this incredibly powerful national story emerged, the Blitz spirit. It was this idea of resilience, of neighbors pulling each other from the rubble, of just carrying on with life and work while bombs were falling. This psychological strength became a weapon in its own right. And it wasn't just a feeling. People took action. Society completely rewired itself for war. You had volunteer air raid wardens on every street, entire families sleeping in subway stations, women pouring into factories to do critical jobs. The whole nation was mobilized. This was, in every sense of the word, total war. Now, the popular image we all have is of Britain alone, standing against the darkness. But the reality? Well, it's a lot more complex. Survival absolutely depended on a huge, global network of support. I mean, just look at this. This chart shows you just how much of a team effort this really was. You had the British Empire and the Commonwealth sending pilots, troops, raw materials, and money, and crucially, vital aid was already starting to flow from the United States, even though they were still officially neutral. Without all of this, Britain's war effort would have just collapsed. And think about this. All of those supplies had to get there somehow. They had to cross an ocean. The Battle of the Atlantic was this relentless, silent war fought against German U-boats, just to keep that lifeline open. The courage of those merchant sailors was every bit as important as the courage of the fighter pilots. So Britain survived 1940, but why did that one single year matter so much in the grand scheme of things? Well, the long-term impact was absolutely world-changing. What happened in Britain in 1940 became the textbook example of total war. It's this idea that a war isn't just about armies clashing. It's about the complete mobilization of every single resource a nation has, from its factories to its morale, all pointed at one single goal: survival and then victory. Ultimately, surviving 1940 was about way more than just defense. It turned Britain into what was essentially an unsinkable aircraft carrier, the base from which D-Day would be launched years later. It guaranteed Hitler would have to fight a war on two fronts. And, maybe most importantly, it sent a powerful message to the entire world. The Nazis could be stopped. And that leaves us with one final thought. When we look at this incredible combination of political courage, brilliant innovation, and just sheer societal solidarity, what lessons can we draw from that for the crises we face today? It's a pretty powerful reminder of what's possible when everything is on the line.